So I want to run through a few things. We're having, man, you guys are killing it out there. You're very busy. You're very, if you're representing buyers, you're writing a lot of contracts, whether you're getting a lot of deals or not. You're writing a lot of contracts. Um, and I just love to see you guys are doing, your numbers are great. So people are selling houses. Those of you who are out there representing buyers and not sure if houses are selling, our numbers are going great. So there are transactions happening, a bunch of them. In fact, we're on pace for maybe our best month ever. So you guys are doing great out there. But having some problems with some of these forms. Some of you guys, some of the things that you're running into are, a little bit quirky deals because you're having to get things done. Um, and so let's talk about a couple of things. One thing is something that happened with me this week, and that is one of our properties that we sell as the management properties that we sell. Um, we had a situation, a multiple offer situation, as you can imagine, and we wanted to do it with a waiving the financing contingency. I'm sorry, waiving the appraisal contingency. So I had a buyer's agent argue with me that he didn't need to put anything special because it wasn't FHA, and that and he didn't do a financing, or I'm sorry, an appraisal contingency addendum, that there was no appraisal contingency. So I had to explain to him that if he goes to line, I'm going to put you guys, I'm going to share a screen here with you guys. If he goes to line, um, 119 through 122 here. We'll start at 116. If loan approval has been obtained or deemed to have been obtained as provided above, and buyer fails to close this contract, then the deposit shall be paid to seller unless failure to close is due to 1, seller's default or inability, 2, property related conditions, or 3, appraisal of the property obtained by buyer's lender is insufficient to meet the terms of the loan approval, in which event the buyer shall be refunded the deposit, thereby releasing buyer and seller from all further obligations under this contract. So every as is has an appraisal contingency. So if this house was 379, our contract was 379, and this house appraised at 375, that does not meet the lender's predetermined terms of the loan. Okay, you guys understand that? And if it's a significant amount more, it's going to throw off their any cash that they might have in the bank and all that kind of stuff, because they'd have to come up with it at closing. It wouldn't be reserved for them, the way that lenders look at all that stuff. So if it does not meet the terms of the loan approval, which is the exact terms of the loan approval, which means if it was 379 and they were putting 10% down and they were putting down 37.9 plus closing costs, if it does not meet those exact dollars, so if it came in at 378.5, they can get out. Okay, I hope everybody understands that. If it does not come in at the exact amount or more, then it does not meet the lender's the terms of the loan approval. Does everybody understand that? So if you want the financing contingency waived, I'm sorry, I keep saying finance. If you want the appraisal contingency waived, you need to literally have on a sentence in there explaining that you're waiving the appraisal contingency. Okay. I'm not going to take you guys through this. We're also seeing a lot of assignabilities and stuff now, which is okay as long as they're still on the, still as they're not released from liability. We're seeing all kinds of crazy stuff out there that you guys have been calling me about. I've had more questions with the vacant land contract. If do you guys have any further questions about this, just speak up. I can only see like 3 of you right now because I'm sharing. Yes, Richard.
Ryan, can you go over that again? I had a hard time logging in.
Okay. All I'm saying is every as is contract has an appraisal contingency built into it. Okay. So if you're going to waive, if you're a listing agent right now and you're requesting a waiver of the appraised value, you need to have specific language in, because I just had a realtor argue with me that if it's not, FHA obviously has, the FHA writer has an appraisal contingency, and there's obviously an appraisal contingency addendum you can put, but every as-is contract has an appraisal contingency as well. They can get out for these 3 reasons: seller's default, property-related conditions, or the appraisal of the property obtained by buyer's lender is insufficient to meet the terms of the loan approval, which is that phone call you get all the time that, hey, I know we're contracted at 300, but my appraisal came in at 285. Will you guys drop the price, or can we negotiate something? So if you don't, they can get out and get their money back. This is what protects them, even if they don't have an appraisal contingency. Okay.
Brian,
As a
if it's coming, if it's over appraised value, do you need to put that in a contract when it's written? That
if what's over appraised value?
let's say you sell the house for more money than what it's worth.
Okay. Yeah. Like every house right now. Yes.
Yeah, every house right now. There's verbiage we're supposed to put in there, right?
What do you mean? If you want them to come up to a past, that's what we're talking about. If you want them to come up past appraisal amount,
Right.
Which you're going to want to, otherwise I can contract every house you have for $1 million and only pay appraisal. Right. So, so what you put in there is, we have language for it. I can share with you if you'd like.
Okay.
It says, buyer agrees to pay the difference between the appraised amount and the contract purchase price.
Okay.
All right, but something to that effect. I've got the exact approved language.
Do I put that in the listing agreement?
No, I mean, you work out with your seller. If that's what your seller demands that we do that, that's fine. But
Okay.
no, you put that and you negotiate that with the buyers.
All right.
All right. Any questions before we go on to the vacant
as
land
a
contract?
yeah, as a listing agent, the first thing that I'm going to look at is the escrow. As a listing agent, first thing I'm going to look at is escrow. I just had a house go way over list price, and I had two people that are battling out for it, and they both waived their appraisal. Well, one had 25 grand in escrow and one had 4. So is the pain of if appraisal comes in 20 grand difference, is the pain worth the 20,000 or the 4,000? So I don't.
That's a good point.
If I'm a buyer's agent, I would increase your escrow if you want to waive your appraisal.
Yeah. And one of the things that we talked about with this, you guys who remember me doing I did a whole series on this when they changed this. When they went from what was it, loan, something to loan approval, loan commitment to loan approval on the contract, they changed it. So when they did that, I did a whole series on this. And one of the things I told you as a listing agent, you want to get more escrow, and you want to get, and this was in a regular market. It was an even market at that time. You want to get more escrow, and you want to get the appraisal done within 24 days or something like that, because that way it doesn't bump past your 30 days. So this appraisal, if it's not done within this 30-day loan approval period, it's still, sorry, if they waited 35 days, they're still protected anytime that appraisal comes in. So what you want to do is make sure that they do that appraisal, and you can write that in the contract. You can write it on the MLS, appraisal to be done within 24 days, whatever, 21 days, whatever it is you want to say on there. Okay. So when you get that appraisal pushback, you're going to get it earlier, at least. Because there are some deals now where people aren't waiving appraisals. You get the cheaper houses and people, they're buying what they possibly can with the money that they have, and using every bit of it. So some people can't go over appraised amount. And in that case, make sure their appraisal gets done early. Make sure you get a bigger escrow, so it is painful for them to back out. But what Dalton's saying is, if you've got a 300 house and you're worried that's going to be a 280 appraisal, make sure if they've got 20 grand in the deal that they've got to leave behind, well, they might as well close the house because they've got that 20 grand already in there. So that makes sense. Otherwise, I would walk away from 4 to save myself 20 if it came in too low. But I should have a good agent, guys, and this is what drives me crazy. I should have a good agent who knows what the house is worth and what it should appraise for. And they should have been doing that. So if you are the agent on the buyer side, make sure you're not surprised and floored when an appraisal comes in. Make sure you have done your CMAs and you keep your client informed of what the house is going to be worth. What is it going to appraise for? You guys should know that within a little bit. I mean, obviously you get some crazy appraisals here and there, but you should know, hey, this house is going to appraise, or this house isn't going to appraise. But it doesn't, but it isn't going to appraise, but who cares? Because it's a $600,000 house. And if somebody needs to come 60 grand out of pocket, they can on that kind of deal. But if you guys need to know where you are according to the appraisal. Sometimes you might not need an appraisal waiver if you know that it's selling near appraisal. So anyway, that's what I wanted to cover on here. If you guys have any other questions about the as is or anything, let me know right now before I go to find a vacant land contract.
Hey, Ryan.
Yes.
Hi. Financing. On the financing contingency, how long do you have before a buyer can cancel and get escrowed back?
I don't know what you're asking. You talking
Like-
about the 30 days?
Yeah, like, you have a closing, let's say a closing set for April 15th,
Right.
right? But you didn't get a commitment letter, you didn't get anything before the 15th, and on the day of the 15th of April, you get a cancellation, release and cancellation, and a denial letter the day of closing.
Okay, let me go through this again then for you guys. This is the one I did the series on, but I'll do this right now. So this is what they changed when they made a loan approval period. And we'll start on line 86. The contract is contingent upon the buyer obtaining approval of a whatever kind of loan within blank days. Now it used to be within 7 days of closing, or 45, it used to be 45 days or 7 days of closing, whichever one was sooner, right? Now it says if left blank 30 days, most of you guys write in 30 or you just leave it blank. Okay, so it's typically 30. This kind of rate, and not to proceed this percent, blah, 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 right? Same standard stuff you had before. Mortgage loan application financed within 5 days. That's standard. Hasn't changed. Okay. And after 50, and use good faith and diligent effort to obtain approval of a loan meeting the financing terms called loan approval. This is new. And thereafter to close this contract. Loan approval, which requires a condition related to the sale by buyer of other property, shall not be deemed loan approval for purposes of this subparagraph. Meaning, if they have a condition that they have to sell it's contingent on buyer sale, then they're exempt from this. Buyers fail to use diligent effort to obtain loan approval during the loan approval period shall be considered a default under the terms of the contract. For purposes of this provision, diligent effort includes, but is not limited to, timely furnishing all documents and information and paying of all fees and charges requested by buyer's mortgage broker and lender in connection with buyer's mortgage loan application. What is this paragraph telling us? Anyone know? Anyone have any idea? Yes, anything?
That the buyer has to submit anything that the lender's requiring.
Right, and what they're telling you is the seller can come after the deposit if the buyer does not start his thing within 5 days, start his application within 5 days. B, provide everything that is required by the loan officer or the mortgage broker in connection with their application. But what kind of language is this? For purposes of provision, diligent effort shall be, but is not limited to timely furnishing all documents. What is timely? Who's timely and who's not? Is 2 days timely? 3 days? I was working. I worked from 9 to 5 and blah blah blah. You know what I mean? So it's open ended and it's tough. It's always tough to take a buyer's. It's the standard. The burden of proof is on the seller to get the buyer's deposit. If it's something like this, if you say they didn't use diligent effort, it's going to be tough to prove, unless they didn't meet they didn't apply within 5 days. So as sellers, what do we do? As listing agent, what do? We stay on top of it. We have the right now in this, by the way, which we're going to get to in a minute. We have the right now as listing agents to contact the lender, and the lender is obligated to give us a prize of what's going on. That is new. Okay. The lender is obligated to tell us as the listing agent what's going on with the loan, including, listen, your client Dalton isn't turning in his paperwork. I'm asking him 3 times for everything and he's not giving it to me. All right. You guys understand that? So your job is to do this. And now we're going to go here. Buyer shall keep seller and broker fully informed. Here it goes. About the status of the buyer's mortgage loan application, loan approval, and loan processing, and authorizes buyer's mortgage broker, lender, and closing agent to disclose such status and progress, and release preliminary and finally executed closing disclosures and settlement statements to seller and broker. Okay. buyer shall keep seller and broker fully informed, the seller and the seller's broker fully informed about the status of buyer's mortgage loan application, loan approval, and loan processing, and authorize buyer's mortgage broker, lender, and closing agent to disclose such status and progress. Okay. So they're authorizing, when you're buying something, you're authorizing your loan officer to share everything with the other side. Okay. All right. Here's where it starts, Idul. 30 days you guys have to do one of the following. Okay. Upon obtaining loan approval, buyer shall promptly deliver written notice of such approval to seller. All right. So here's what, if they don't do that, here's what you can do. If buyer is unable to obtain loan approval after the exercise of diligent effort, then at any time prior to expiration of the loan approval period, 30 days, buyer may provide written notice to seller stating that buyer has been unable to obtain loan approval and has elected to either, 1, waive loan approval, in which case the contract will continue as if loan approval had been obtained. In other words, you feel really, really, really confident. And maybe you only put up $1,000 in escrow and it's worth their chase to try to get more, right? Because the listing agent and the seller didn't make you put more money into escrow. So you possibly can waste more of their time, or you're actually going to close. You feel confident. 2, if you don't have loan approval within 30 days, you can terminate the contract. Makes sense, happens all the time, right? 3, if buyer fails to timely deliver either notice. So the things could have happened so far is 1, the buyer has loan approval and shall promptly deliver written notice. So that's a good thing, right? They got it. This deal's headed to closing. 2, they don't have it, but they're going to waive it. And 3, they don't have it. They don't think they're going to get it. So they're going to terminate. Okay. Next, if buyer fails to timely deliver either notice provided in paragraph 8 above to seller prior to expiration of loan approval period, then loan approval shall be deemed waived, in which event this contract will continue as if loan approval had been obtained. Provided, however, okay, so far, let's stop there. It's going to continue as if loan approval had been obtained, meaning if you're the buyer's agent and you did not let somebody know one way or the other about this, you've just put your client's escrow at risk. Okay. All right. Now, let's see if the listing agent is paying attention. Provided, however, seller may elect to terminate this contract by delivering written notice to buyer within 3 days after expiration of the loan approval period. So now the seller can kick you out if you didn't let them know anything within 30 days. And they have 3 days to do that. Day 31, 32, and 33, they can kick you out of the deal. Is this the kind of market where you might get kicked out of a deal?
Yes.
No.
Absolutely, right? So if you leave your hind end exposed here, they're going to put their boot there. Okay. So cover your bases, let them know you have loan approval. Everybody got that?
Yeah.
I can only see like 4 of your faces, so that's good. It's because I can only see a couple of screens. If this contract is timely terminated as provided in paragraph 8 above, the buyer is not in default under the terms of this contract. Buyer shall be refunded the deposit, hereby releasing buyer and seller from all further obligations under this contract, as you know. That's for people canceling. If loan approval has been obtained or deemed to have been obtained, guys, does it say anything here about a denial letter?
No.
No. Don't let people bully you for denial letters. First of all, that was 4 years ago that was a thing. And second of all, and I'm not sure it was ever really a thing, but it's not a thing now. The word denial letter is not anywhere in here. Okay. Next, if loan approval has been obtained or deemed to have been obtained as provided above, and buyer fails to close this contract, then the deposit shall be paid to seller unless failure to close is due to, that's what we talked about earlier. 1, seller's default or inability to satisfy their contingencies. 2, properly laid conditions of the loan approval have not been met. And 3, appraisal of the property obtained by buyer's lender is insufficient to meet the terms of loan approval, in which event the buyer shall be refunded the deposit, thereby releasing buyer and seller from all further obligations under this contract. All right. So there's your financing contingency.
What that means, line 116.
Line 116.
Yeah.
If loan approval has been obtained or deemed to have been obtained as provided above, or deemed to be obtained means if you didn't let them know, they're assuming it was obtained. That's deemed to be obtained. I don't know that it was obtained, but you didn't let me know it wasn't, so I assumed it was. Right? That's what that line up here says. If buyer fails to timely deliver either notice, seller prior to the seller, the loan approval shall be deemed waived. Okay? Because you didn't let them know one way or the other.
Right.
Right? So if it's been obtained or deemed to have been obtained as provided above, then buyer fails to close his contract, the deposit shall be paid to seller. Everybody got that? It's not uncomplicated. It's pretty complicated, but you got to stay on top of it. Guys, you got to have a calendar. You got to take some accountability here. All this stuff. If buyer fails to timely deliver, do you think your buyer is worried about delivering notice to a seller? That's your job, right? That's what you're supposed to know. And this is the kind of thing that you need to let people know when they're doing FSBOs. You think buyers or sellers have any idea what's going on with this kind of thing? So, your buyers don't know any of this stuff. Buyers shall keep seller and broker fully informed. Buyers aren't doing that. That's our job, right? It's our job to make sure all this stuff goes smoothly. So, any other questions about this?
What do they call loan approval? Is true that should be the clear to close?
So the lender's going to give you loan approval, and it's always going to be contingent on something. It's always going to have contingencies on it. Part of it is contingent that the buyer doesn't lose their job in the next 2 weeks, right? Or whatever there's going to be it's going to be conditional, I should say. There's going to be stuff on there that they have to meet conditions, right? So at that point, you're making a judgment call with the lender and with the buyer about whether or not to go for it, right? I mean, once in a while you'll get a strong loan approval from a lender, but a lot of times it's conditional on this or that, right? So, but if you've been 30 days down this road, there shouldn't be anything left to be too conditional, right? Just keep it on the road. Don't go buy a Maserati before now and closing, right? So just that's the kind of thing.
I had the case, and the lender was blaming the COVID, was blaming that they were fully loaded of jobs. So they postpone and postpone and postpone, and they always were assuring that it was going to be approved. So finally it was, but it was the whole process was almost 60 days.
Well, that is, you're lucky that you got through it. It closed?
Yeah,
You got through it in this
Finally.
market. People are kicking you if you ask for anything. So, but one thing you want to make sure you're doing, guys, and this is another thing I want to discuss because I get this question a lot too. There is an extension addendum. Be sure you're extending not just the closing, but your financing contingency as well as you go through that. Make sure you're doing that, not just the closing, but also your financing contingency. Okay.
I made that mistake. I just extended closing day, but I didn't extend the loan approval.
But it ended up closing, so you got away with it.
Yeah.
Well, just be careful about that. Be sure to extend both. Extend everything if you can, whatever you can extend.
Okay.
Guys, if you're not hearing back on your inspection, and now's not the best time to be arguing with people after an inspection because they'll just say no and see you later. They've got somebody else because of being a seller's market. But when this thing evens out a little bit, when you want to negotiate something off of or even now, if you want to negotiate something off of an inspection, be sure to send them in case they aren't going to answer on time, an extension of the inspection period. Or let them know you want to cancel if they don't approve or whatever. Just give them some sort of thing there. Just asking someone for something and they don't respond in your inspection period, but it's an as-is contract, guys. You don't have any right to ask for anything. You want to, you can, but you don't have any right to ask for anything. They don't have any obligation to do it. So you asking for something is not part of that deal. There's nowhere in here does it say asking for repairs. Okay. So if you're asking for something, make sure you are going to extend it until you get an answer. Or you're going forward. I mean, you guys have all seen this. Have you guys not seen this? Where you have an inspection period, someone asks for something, you just never answer them and it just goes forward. Right? That happens. They never get their answer. They assume it's no and they go forward. And that's what's going to happen in this market, of course. But even in a middle market, it goes that way. All right. Any other questions on the as-is?
I do, Ryan.
Yes, Mel.
Going back on the first page, the time that the buyer wants the seller to get back to them to see if they accept their offer or not, that one, line 45. Some people leave that on blank. And what are the repercussions of leaving that in blank for the buyer?
It's not a valid offer if it doesn't expire. So the ramifications in real life are none, but it could be, you know, they could keep this contract for forever, I guess, and make you buy it later, like an option of a stock. I don't know, but just put a date there. The date needs to be there. Unless, well, that's on counter offer. So it's deemed to be withdrawn if it doesn't meet the this time period. I've never seen this blank.
I have.
Purpose. I've never seen it blank on purpose. I've probably seen it blank before. How many deals do you have where these are coming in and you're not answering them on time right now because you're still collecting offers? And how many times are they saying, well, our offer's expired? Not in this market, right? So the answer is it's not a valid offer without this, because it could be abused theoretically, all the way up to the closing date, I suppose. I don't know. That's kind of the limiting factor, would be the closing date. So I don't know, Malvis. But
Ryan,
this should be filled out. Make sure they fill it out. If they give you one without it, fill it out. Make sure they fill it out. Sorry.
Ryan, in a situation like line 45, leaving it blank, they don't care if you reply or not, or when you sign the contract. But if they put a date, like let's say in this market, where people need an answer within a certain time, because if they don't get the property, they need to move on, then they put a date, and a date is important because then they're not locked into that contract. So
Well,
they sometimes they do.
If you're writing out there writing contracts for people and time is important, you're definitely going to put a date there.
Correct. Like if you know you don't get an answer by the end of today, 5 p.m., your contract expired because you need an answer. Sometimes you push the seller into saying, I need an answer now. But in this market, the seller might say, I don't care. I'll take my time. So which means that's irrelevant, right?
Which means your offer is expired.
Expired.
They're probably still going to continue to, they're probably still going to email you, because they're going to have your offer. They're going to email your agent and say, highest and best tomorrow by noon.
Correct.
Right. And if you don't already have another house, you're going to play along.
Correct.
And you're not already going to have another house, so you're going to play along anyway.
Yeah.
So, that is something I want to talk about. Now, I am not an attorney, but let me tell you a legal concept with any of these items in a contract. And that is, if everyone goes forward like something was done correctly, you can't go back later and say, and I don't know the name of this rule of law, but it is a rule. You can't go back later and say, oh, well, this whole thing, this whole deal went bad, and now I see that they didn't apply for financing within 5 days, right? You can't do that. So, because we've gone way past that. We've continued to act as though everything was fine. If they don't make their escrow on time within the 3 days, you can't get all the way to closing and be mad at them about something else and say, we're out of this deal. You guys didn't make escrow on time. No, you continued to play along with this deal. You can tell it's not legal advice because I'm saying play along. You continued to go along with everything this whole time. You can't go back and do something else. So Malvis, to kind of relate it to that, and this happens all the time, guys. People always say, well, do we need to change the date on the acceptance since they didn't accept within 2 days? You probably need to change a bunch of dates, depending on what's going on. But and yes, you should. But it's just part of everything that they countersign and everything that they initial. But if we go on and get to the end of this deal and they say, oh, well, we gave them 2 days to answer and they didn't answer for 3 days, we want out of this deal. You can't do that. You've been playing along the whole time. You can't do that. If we have any lawyers on here that know the name of that concept, please pipe in, because I don't. But it's a fact. Once you start going along with something, you're in.
I think it's called ignorance of the facts.
There you
There's
go.
no excuse.
There you go. Well, I should know all about that. So, any other questions on the as is? No. Okay. Well, let's exit out of here. Let's go to the vacant land. Vacant land contract. Okay, guys, I did a whole class on this a couple months ago, so I'm going to be brief here. But we had a lot of questions on it recently. I guess you guys are selling a lot of lots, which is great. Seller and buyer, address, legal, this is all the same. This is all the same, guys, all the same. Now, one thing that happens a lot more on land, especially if it's some sort of development deal, a commercial land or something, you'll have an initial deposit and then you'll have a deposit after the expiration of the feasibility study period. That's common. It's less common for just buying a lot to build a house on. So here's where you put your escrow. Total financing. This is where it goes. A lot of them are cash, but a lot of them are finance. This is where your financing goes, 70%, whatever it is. And it will give you, obviously, the amount balance to close. Okay. Sometimes people want to pay you, and this is more for commercial stuff. They want to pay you, we'll pay you, $50,000 an acre. So you do that, you do per acre. And whenever they get the survey, the price changes. Okay. So, but you give whatever they're representing as the acreage. If they represent it to be 100 acres, then you would write whatever that is, $5 million right here. And if they say it's, and if it comes in at 47.8 acres, then you would adjust that before closing. Okay. Time for acceptance, same thing. Closing date, same as the other contracts. Buyer will pay cash, same kind of thing here. There's a financing contingency is not quite the same, but you get the idea here. It's new financing, very standard. Assignability, may assign the contract, may assign but never not be released, same items you have before. Statutory warranty deed is the typical one that you're going to see. Title evidence, so click on that one. That's why they put it first, probably. Title insurance commitment. We do not get abstract of title anymore. That's old school stuff. Title insurance commitment is what you're going to click. Okay. Title examination, all that stuff. Feasibility study. Always click this. It's not always. I mean, if they don't want to, if it's a $5,000 lot and they want to close in 2 weeks, then don't click this. But if they're going to look at it and it's in a neighborhood, but if they need to do any kind of research on this at all, if they're going to build a house on it, I would definitely put some time in here. It's 30 if left blank, depending on what it is. If it's a commercial deal, you'll see 180 in here. You'll see all kinds of big numbers. But if they're buying a lot to live on, I would at least do 30 days. Okay. Any questions on that? 30 days is the time that they go to the local jurisdiction. Hopefully, if it's in an HOA with the houses next to it and all that stuff, that's great. You don't really need to do much of that. But if it's on a lake, if it's near wetlands of any type, you need to get soil studies done to make sure they're not on muck there where they have to put piling if they want to build something. That's how they end up losing money. That's how they end up doing it.
Can they walk away for any reason, just like on the as is during that time?
Look at this line 139 in buyer's sole and absolute discretion.
Okay.
Sole and absolute discretion, guys, that means absolutely anything. If my aunt in Chicago dies and I just don't feel up to buying land anymore, I'm out. Doesn't matter. Right? I saw a snake on the property. I'm out. Whatever it is. Doesn't have to be a good reason. Yes, Malvis.
Is there, Ryan, a list of the type of studies that are recommended to be done in a vacant land? I've heard soil study. I've heard wetland studies. I've heard survey. Is there a list anywhere that we can have as a reference to tell a buyer, here, these are the things that you want to get done?
Yes, there is. And here's a good guide. And it's different for every piece of property. Okay. So if it's high and dry and it's got a house on each side of it and everything else, you don't need to do soil. Okay. So you don't need to do an environmental bugs, what we call a bugs and bunny assessment, where they make sure there's no endangered species. There's houses on both sides. It's a regular neighborhood. But if you look at line 142, Buyer deems necessary to determine buyer satisfaction, the property's engineering, architectural and environmental properties, zoning and zoning restrictions, subdivision statutes, soil and grade, availability of access to public roads, water, and other utilities, consistency with local, state, and regional growth management plans. We're getting more into commercial here for this. Availability of permit, governmental approvals, and licenses, and other inspections that buyer deems appropriate. So there's a pretty good list of things that might come up, right? And what I would say, typically, if it's near water, you're going to want to do the soil and grade. Or if it's on a hill, you're going to do the soil and grade to make sure that they can build there without having to bring in. A lot of times they'll say, yeah, you'll go to the city or the jurisdiction, the city or the county, and they'll say, absolutely, you can build there. You can build whatever you want. That's fine. And then you talk to a builder, and the builder says, well, you're going to need 300 loads of dirt to do this. So hopefully you have 60 grand extra in your budget, and your buyer is going to say, we don't. All right. Let's make sure that buyer hears about that 60 grand before closing and not after, but during the due diligence period and not after.
So that's what the
Feasibility
soil,
study.
that's what the
That's
soil
not-
and grade
that's not
refers
soil.
to?
Soil is making sure it's not muck, and this is a Florida thing. I mean, it's an everywhere thing, but it's especially in Florida, making sure it's not muck underneath. I don't know if you've ever walked on ground that's a little bit soggy. You can't always tell in either. But if it's near wetlands, a lot of times we have a very low water table here, or say very high water table here. It's just our aquifer and then limestone and then dirt. So we have a very high water table here. So we have a lot of mucky soil. Okay.
So to find out about the fill dirt, like to get the land prepared to build,
Mhm.
do they have to have a contractor for that, or can somebody come in and give them an idea?
That's a civil engineer.
Okay.
Or a contract. They're going to know
The
where
same
dirt
company
is.
that does the environmental study?
But they're going to need, no, but they'll be able to put you in the right direction. They're going to delineate the wetlands. They'll be able to put you in the right direction for that kind of stuff. So they can typically, I mean, again, a good sign is that the neighbors built on the same kind of
Yeah,
level and
yeah.
stuff. But sometimes people build on pilings and people do that and they just pay more. So your buyer needs to know that. Any other questions on that? So Malvis, try you can Google what things they need. Every property is different though, what kind of feasibility studies they need. And there are
Okay.
even consultants who just take you through the whole process and they handle everything. So there's all kinds of stuff. You just Google people and they'll help you.
Okay.
They'll charge you because they're in business.
Right.
But as far as each property, everyone is absolutely different. Zoning and zoning restrictions, if you're talking about commercial stuff, obviously that stuff, that's why you get 180 days or a year sometimes for commercial, okay, for feasibility where they can walk away. If it is, or typically they'll put 180 days and then we put something like, we make a contingency on getting the zoning and permitting that we need. Okay, which is an open-ended thing, and sometimes it's dragged out while they're setting up the financing and everything else, but that's for another day. That's for commercial development. Next,
Okay.
any other questions about this as we go on? Feasibility study. Absolutely any reason you want to back out. It's just like the inspection period on an as is. Absolutely any reason you want to back out, you back out. You guys have told me all kinds of stories. You had buyers who their mom died or something happened and they didn't want to buy it anymore. They still love the house, but they couldn't buy it now or whatever. All kinds of stuff. Or here's no feasibility study. If you're just trying to buy this thing real quick and get you know what it is. A lot of times it's a neighbor buying a lot next door, knows what it is, he wants to keep it vacant. So he doesn't care, but he wants to buy it for 10 grand and he's going to do no feasibility study. Here's where you go with that. Okay.
And Ryan, they can back out of that within
Nope.
that feasibility study 30 days, right?
You're waiving your
No,
inspection
not
period.
with that, with the prior one.
The prior one's sole and absolute discretion. Yeah. Don't like one thing that you see, you're out. Okay. No feasibility study. Obviously that's like waiving an inspection. You're done. You're considered, it's all deemed acceptable to buyer. Again, that's very rare, but it does happen because it's people who know the lot or they've been looking at it for years or they bought the one next door and they don't care. All right, next. Seller's cost, buyer's cost, roughly the same as the others. Seller and buyer special assessment public body, same thing. Same thing you're doing on an as is, guys. until you get down to, of course, a lot of this stuff, they can't, the same damage can't be done to a piece of land as can a house for the most part. All right, buyer's sales associate, seller sales associate license number, their email address, phone number. You want everything on here. Buyer's brokerage address. And that's pretty much it, guys. It's a pretty, vacant land is pretty simple. The only part in it is the part that we took the time talking about, which is a feasibility study. And your clients, the buyers, are responsible for this stuff. You're a guide, okay? Give them all the information that you can and let them choose what to do and what not to do. Do it in writing. Okay, this isn't as cookie cutter as a house where you get an inspector, appraiser, you're done, right? Inspector, lender gets the appraiser, and you're done. There's a lot more to it here. So make sure that you communicate with them everything in writing, all the things that could possibly be going on with this. And I don't care if you have to copy and paste this from their contract. Properties, engineering, architectural, environmental, make sure all this stuff is good with you guys before we go forward. If I can help you in any way, that's great. I'll do the legwork, go down to the city hall for you, whatever. That's the kind of things that you guys need to offer them, but make sure that they decide what needs to be done. And a lot of times, Tammy, to answer your question, getting a builder involved or someone like that, even if they're not going to build within the next 6 months or a year, getting a builder involved and have the builder tell them exactly what this kind of lot needs. Okay. What would keep me from building on this lot? Building the kind of house that you want on this lot. You want a walkout basement? Well, guess what? Your water levels, your water table's too high here. We can't do it. Or we'd have to build up the front so much that you're going to need, 100 truckloads of dirt. Okay.
Also, Ryan, along with that same point, which is true, they can also give them pricing, cost kind of ratios or variables. Sure,
that's important. So now, yeah, I want to know roughly too how much it would be to build the kind of house that I want, and how much it would be. How much is 100 truckloads of dirt? And I can tell you, some people can get it cheaper than others. People are going to tell you $300 a load, and I know a guy can get it for 125. So depending on where you are, so there's stuff like that involved too. But yeah, absolutely. Get a rough estimate on what it would be. Get a plan together. They need to get a house plan together, or if it's assuming it's a house, get a house plan together and send it to the guy and say, how much to build this house on this lot, roughly. Give me an estimate. I know there's going to be 1,000 change orders. It's going to be a lot higher, but give me some kind of rough estimate on what it would cost to build here. All right, including site work. All right. Any other questions on that? Comments? All right. Any other forms that you guys want to look at? This was the big one I had in mind until I had the issue with the as is.
Ay, papi. Basta. Yucky.
Any other items at all you guys want to share with each other? I'll make sure.
Ryan, when I write an addendum, I always have the concern about if it's legal language is or if it's gonna be challenged in any case because the language is not appropriate, because the legal language is not the appropriate. So is there any guide to write an addendum in the right way?
What are you writing?
Yeah, for instance, it was the opposite realtor. She writes something like I don't remember exactly, but they were attorneys involved, and he said she made a big mistake. What she's saying in the addendum is not what is going to protect them. So they didn't do the right thing because it's not the appropriate legal language.
Okay, I'm not a lawyer, but if you guys are concerned about something that you've written, you can send it to us. I'll have the broker look at it, and if necessary, we'll have the lawyers. But there's a good way to write it. To write almost anything up. But yes, I've seen some, we discussed last week, someone who promised to pay 10,000 over appraisal without limiting it to the contract price. So they're going to pay 10,000 more than the contract price if it comes in at appraisal. If it comes in $5,000 more than appraisal, they can pay an extra 15 more than contract price. So yeah, you have to be careful. You're not attorneys. We have some. You guys have seen, at least if you're on our Facebook group, we've shared approved language for the waiver of appraisal. We've approved language for the escalation clause. If you guys want to see that stuff, that's good. And there's got to be a way we'll share that with you guys besides it's on Facebook, but if you need some other way. But anything else, guys, don't get fancy. Don't, thou shalt, all this stuff on legal stuff. If you have any kind of questions about whether it's covered or not, if you're covering yourself or not, send it to us. A lot of language is fine, the same. And there's another standard of law. Again, I'm not a lawyer. I don't know how many times I need to say this on a Zoom call. I'm not an attorney, but there's another standard of law where the person who writes the contract has more of a burden than the person who receives the contract. So when you write, you're taking on extra responsibility. Okay. You're considered to be the one who could possibly be scheming when you're the one writing it. When you're the one receiving it, you have less responsibility. And again, obviously that's not legal terms. I'm not a lawyer, but thou shalt let other people write it when thou shalt can. Okay. So you don't write bad stuff. Any other ideas? But yes. So Fernando, if you're not comfortable with it, and some of you guys aren't 100% comfortable with English or whatever, I don't blame you. Send it to us and we'll look it over. Okay. Any other
Thank you.
comments? You bet.
Hey, Ryan, go over how to upload everything to you guys.
Oh, Richard, paperless pipeline. Let's do it. Let's do it. Let's do it. You guys, those of you who are paperless pipeline freaks and you're awesome at it, you can log out now if you want. But most of you aren't that great, to be honest. So let's do it.
Actually, Ryan, we had a really weird thing happen last week with Camel Court. When I set it up, I put John and I on the listing like I always do. And then when I went to look at it, I think he sent me an extension, I wasn't able to open it. It wasn't on my transaction list. And when he opened it, he couldn't add me as an agent. And we hadn't done anything to it, so we don't know what happened to it.
Okay. I don't know either.
Is Ayana's replacement available?
Yeah, yes, she's working at the office. She's not with me. I'm at my house. But her name's Larry Angel.
Okay. You
Liliana.
said you were going to introduce her. Okay.
Yes. And thank you, Dalton Contra Profer. Yeah, thank you. That's why I didn't know it. I'm glad you knew it off the top of your head. I appreciate that. Okay, guys, I'm going to show you paperless pipeline. And I assume that you guys are seeing what I'm seeing right now. Is that right? Everybody seeing paperless pipeline right now?
Mhm.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, good.
Yeah.
Thank you. So I don't know that you see the exact screen I do when you log in because I am an administrator or something on here. But let's go to our dashboard and add transaction. Okay, here we are. Add transaction. Yeah, I see everybody's transactions there, but you guys won't see that. Add transaction, select location, FRI, transaction name or property address. Let's go with 123 Oak Street. All right. MLS or transaction number. I may or may not have that yet. If I have it, I'll put it there. If not, I won't. Status. Let's say I'm the listing agent though. Okay. Just listed it. Label, residential property, right? Again, you could do vacant land. It's a sales referral. It's a residential property, residential lease, new construction residential. which is great because you only have two things you got to do there, because their contracts are 75 pages and they have everything in it. Commercial property or commercial lease. Those are your options. So most of the time you guys will be doing residential properties.
Is a sales referral like somebody refer you as sales?
If you that is to let us know. That's if you referred someone to someone else. That's a great question. Thank you, Ida. That's if you refer someone to someone else. If you received a referral, you're just going to do it like a regular deal and then just tell us to pay somebody at the end. But if you gave a referral to somebody in New Jersey or wherever, right? We're going to eventually get a check and not have any idea what it's for. So we'll get a check from a Caldwell banker in New Jersey, and we won't have any idea what it's for unless you put in here, unless you put it in Paperless Pipeline. You don't have to put the property address. You might not know it. Maybe you gave them a buyer. You might not know the property address, but you can name it Bob Smith, whoever you referred up there. And that way, when we get the check, eventually go in and put the address when you find out where he bought. That way, when we get the check, we know who it goes to. Because when we get a check, we look it up first in here, right? It should make sense. It should be an address that we recognize, that the system recognizes, or will recognize the name involved or something. All that stuff comes up on here when we search.
All right, thank you.
So thank you for that question. All right, so I'm putting this in today, April 21st, 2021. It expires on, let me see, let's give it 6 months, October 21st. We don't have an acceptance dates or a closing date yet. I'm just putting a listing in, okay? We don't have any of that other stuff. More info. Yeah, I am, let me see, more info. I'm gonna split this deal. You know what? I know I agreed that I would split it with Tammy, but I'm not. I'm gonna do 75-25 because I don't like her attitude lately. 25% Tammy, okay? All right. She didn't help as much as I thought she would. All right. So I'll put the seller's name in here. Susie Seller. Fantastic. I don't have a buyer yet. List price $499. Sale price I don't have yet. Total commission I don't have yet. Summary, commission summary I don't have yet, except I had the 75. Ryan.
If it's your listing, you would have. If it's your listing, you'd have the commission, wouldn't you? Because you would have signed it in the listing.
Yeah, based off the sale price up, but I don't know what sale price is going to be yet. So I could do this as a percentage,
Oh,
but it's
yeah,
got
yeah.
a dollar sign here.
Got it. Okay.
Later
Yeah,
on,
yeah.
I could do it as a percentage.
Yeah.
Okay, I know what the percentage is, but I don't know what the dollars. Assign agents. Now, I don't know why we're doing that. I don't want Tammy messing this deal up, so I'm just going to do it myself on here. And Ryan Langley is the listing agent. Okay. And now I'm going to add the transaction. Vivian, if you can't see it, that other deal you were trying to do, you might not have been added as an agent on there.
But that's the weird part. I'm the one that does the pipeline setup for our file.
Well, we have two other Vivians, and maybe you put a different Vivian.
Okay.
Okay. I'm kidding. Next.
No, I mean,
next thing.
I saw it for weeks and then it disappeared.
Okay, it might have been marked something else. I don't know. We'll try to find
Yeah.
out. Send Larry Angel an email and copy Abby on it, please. Okay. All right. So here it is. Now we upload documents. This is where, Richard, this is what you were talking about. Now we upload documents. We got that home page. Now I can either drag them from the bottom of my screen, or, which normally I would have them here, I would have downloaded them there or whatever, or I will choose from my computer which stuff is going to pop up. Let's look up listing agreement. Here we go. Now we've uploaded that category, office, and you guys won't have a review thing here. I do. So I'm going to upload it, right? So I'm not going to review it yet. Now you guys also don't have unreviewed documents, which we have, because that's how we review them. So she goes through those, but now I see it. So this is how it pops up for Larry Angel. Okay. It pops up with your deal, and she has an unreviewed item here. So she's going to click on this, review it, make sure everybody's initialed it and signed it. And then she's going to check it off here and check it off here. All right. Now, when you get all of these done, so for this part, you're going to do this. So on this deal, we're going to do this as an office. It says a short sale addendum, if applicable. It's not applicable. Okay. Lead-based paint doesn't have to be applicable on this house. So there you go. So we get rid of those. So we need the property disclosure. We need the data entry form. We need the contract when you get a buyer. So then it'll just sit there until you get a buyer. Now we need the contract. We need the HOA or condo disclosure. We need the pre-qual or proof of funds. We need the escrow deposit receipt all before closing. Then if you get all of those in and it's a week before closing, you're ready to do your CDA. Okay. What your commission disbursement request to us, and we do the CDA. We authorize it.
Ryan, one question.
Yes, sir.
If it's a referral from another agent and we're doing 75-25 split,
Yeah.
do I need to put that agent on the listing agreement?
No. Nope. You have
Okay.
a separate agreement with that agent, and that's how they get paid. We have an agreement to pay their broker 25%. Okay. But in here, instead of writing Ryan 75, Tammy 25, you would write, you'd write Richard 75, and then Caldwell Banker Miami 25, or whoever it is, right? And then at some point in here, you'll put their address in and everything else when you do your CDA. Okay.
Yeah, well, the one I'm working is with Krista, so I just put mine and then put Krista.
Right. You put you and Krista right here like this, just like
Okay.
I just did. But she doesn't go on the listing agreement. Okay. Just you do. All right.
Thank you.
I have a.
Two, please.
Hold on. Go ahead. One at a time. Fernando first, and then Rushu. Go ahead, Fernando.
I have a question. There is I have a client. She already bought a house, and I was his realtor, but now she's gonna buy another one, and it's an expensive house. It's almost 700,000. And she told me, you know what, Fernando? I have a friend. She's realtor, and she knew that I was gonna buy the house, and she told me, listen, if you give that deal to me, I'm gonna share my commission 50%, 50%. So I don't know if it's true, but she called me and she told me, listen, this is happening. Are you willing to do the same?
Or you mean you don't know if it's legal? Yeah, it's legal.
It's legal.
Yeah.
It's ethical.
It's not to. What kind of paperwork do you have signed with her?
No, nothing. It's my client because I have worked with her twice. It's
Fernando, this is a whole nother training, and I gotta get moving on this one. But this is a whole
Okay.
other training. If you think realtors are ethical, we'll do another training on that. And we're supposed to be.
No, I feel that it's not ethical, but I don't.
Well, you're right, but we're supposed to be ethical. But I can give you many examples of, and not just individual ones, how we all behave. That's not necessarily what people would call ethical.
A quick question, Ryan.
Let me give you a quick one. Real quick. If I offer, we have two identical houses, and I offer the other side 3%, and you offer 2%, who's going to sell their house faster?
The 3%.
3%.
Why? Don't you guys do what's right for the client, no matter what the commission is?
Yeah, but
Okay.
it's
So we'll talk about that another time. Fernando, I appreciate you bringing that up. No, it's not nice. No, it's not particularly ethical. But people are going to squeeze you for money in this business, and sometimes you got to take it. And we'll talk about that. I will do another thing on that. Reshu, how can I help you?
Thank you.
Ryan, I have a question regarding the pipeline thing, like the checklist thing. So, I always have a percentage on my top. Let's say it is that much percentage complete. So I just wanted to ask you what documents we have to include from the checklist.
Well, all of them, if they're on there, unless you have a reason they can't be. But as I do this, it's telling me more and more percent. It's telling me 2 out of 8 right now, but I know it does, 25%, 50%, whatever. As I turn these documents in and turn them in, it gets more and more. As you see, it's 7 out of 8. So it's going to say, 87.5% or whatever.
So, what I did, Ryan, do you see the setting sign in there? I included more documents and it increased the number to 14. So do you think it matters or no?
Somebody must have added a checklist to it. Don't worry about that. Just keep turning your stuff in until you get.
Okay. So if
Once in
any
a while,
document,
like for example, I just added another checklist. So now I've got 7 out of 18.
yeah, that's what happened with me.
Okay. Well, don't worry
So
about it.
it's nothing to
Just make
worry
sure that
about,
one of
right?
them's done. Just make sure that one of them's done. Sometimes if people get the listing side and the, let me get rid of this one real quick, and they get the selling side, they think they have to do both. They don't.
Oh, okay. So that might have happened. So I did not know how to delete it. Now I saw it, so I will
No, you
delete
can't
it.
delete it. The girls can.
Oh,
you can.
okay.
Don't worry about it.
Okay, one more thing,
Turn
Ryan.
your documents in, you'll be fine.
So if I'm missing anything, the office will let me know, right?
Oh, you bet they will. Yes.
Okay, and one more thing, Ryan, like when you uploaded the documents, so I selected the sale in that. Do I need to select the office?
Where was this now?
When you upload the documents to your, you uploaded a document from to your
Sure.
pipeline,
Yeah.
from the computer to the pipeline, and when you put that in, you have a permission granted, right? There was a drop down. It says office, sales, like who has a permission to see the document?
Just do public. Just do public. You don't
I do
care. Only our agents are on there, and you can only you can see your deals. So it's not. Don't worry
Okay.
about it.
So
That's for when people. It's for office sharing stuff that we don't do. Don't worry about that.
Okay, I selected sales. Is that okay?
That's fine. Yep.
That's fine.
Yep.
Okay,
Yep.
that was a question. Thank you so much.
It doesn't matter what you pick.
And
Thank
quick
you.
question. I'm sorry. Do we all have access to this pipeline
Yeah.
software?
Yeah, you should have got a welcome to Paperless Pipeline when you joined.
Okay. So is that
and
something
you
I
have
have
a
to talk
login.
to my?
If not, we can send you another login.
Yes, please.
Okay. All right, Abby, did you hear that? Abby will send you a login.
All right. Thank you so much.
You bet.
Yeah, I appreciate that. Thank you.
Yeah, everybody has it. Everybody needs to have it because that's how you get paid. So now
All
that
right,
you got all
perfect.
your things going, now that we got everything in, Tammy and I somehow rustled together everything for Susie Seller. We're going to closing in a week. So what do? Reference tab. Boy, I'm glad that we're all on our reference tab. We've got commercial forms. We got contract forms. Guys, this is where you find all of this stuff if you ever need something. I can't tell you how many times a day I type. It's on Paperless Pipeline under the reference tab. So look at all this stuff, lease stuff, listing forms, office forms. This is the most popular one. Office forms, commission disbursement request form. That's what I'm going to do right now. But E&O, which we just got new ones today. So we're good on E&O again. We'll upload those. Affiliated business disclosure. You guys know what this is, right? This is how you charge the fee to your client. Florida Realty Investments collects additional flat fee commission of $350. That's how you do that. So you need that for your buyers or your sellers. You put it on the listing agreement. But for your buyers, that's what you need. Investor questionnaire. Here's a W-9 you guys all want all the time. It's right here. FRI W-9 signed in 2021. It's the newest, the hottest W-9 that we have. Okay. Be good all year. And it's there for you. All right. Commission disbursement request form now. Let's look at that. So I'm going to open the original doc here. And when I open the original doc, now I can write on it. Closing date 4/30/21.
No, I think you have to save that, Ryan.
After we're done,
think
we
you
have
have-
to save it.
No, I think when I don't save that and then type into it, it doesn't save it from here. I could be wrong, but I always have to save it
You
and
have to
then
save it
go in and
first. I save it
take-
after,
type it.
but I
Yeah,
don't.
Ryan, what he was saying is right. I was told the same thing. Like you have to save it, download it, print it, and
Mhm.
then you have to.
You don't have to print it. It'll fill in when you save it and go back in. It'll print it. But I've done it your way and it doesn't save, I don't think.
Well, it's probably user error, Tammy.
Because I think we need to have an edit,
Can you show that
be
again,
able
Ryan,
to
how you
edit,
did it?
and we don't have that.
Okay.
Hey, Ryan.
Yeah, you might have to have maybe the Adobe thing, whatever for it. Okay. But you guys know how to fill that out. I went over that last week. If you guys need anything else on that, but you know how to fill that out, right? Hopefully. If not, well, that's another training we'll do something on that in 2 weeks because I got somebody for next week. I think I have an actual attorney for next week. So you guys don't have to listen to me guess what attorney stuff is going on.
Ryan, one question.
Yes, sir.
Can you download or upload from transaction desk to this?
Okay, so what you do is on transaction desk, sure, of course you can. So here's transaction desk. Well, you're not going to want to go from transaction desk to this. You want to go from a signature program or a signed document that you scan to this. Because this thing on transaction desk, this, for example, this vacant land contract or listing agreement, whatever it is, I don't want a blank one on there. I want the signed one, that's signed by you and by the client. So that's what I'm going to upload there. But yes, so let's say this, for example, you just get it on your screen. Anything that you save as a PDF is going to save to your system, and it's going to save down there. So I'm just going to do that. Let me go back to this transaction. Let me go back to 123. Oh, people quit calling me. Go here. Okay. Looks like I've done this before.
You think?
All right. Upload docs here. I'll hit upload docs. And then anything that I've saved to the bottom of my screen, I just drag right there. And it'll pop up in a second. Drag right there. There it is. All right. And this is what she was asking earlier. Permission categories, doesn't matter. Make it public, make it office, listing, sales, doesn't matter. All right. And you'll just upload. You won't have this reviewed box, like I said, because you're not an admin, but upload it. It gets uploaded to that deal, and Larry Angel will come in and check it out, and she'll say, that looks great. Or you guys, look, guys, if you do one like this that wasn't filled out or wasn't signed by everybody, we're going to write this in there. That's when you see that, that means it wasn't signed by everybody. So a lot of times you'll come in and you'll do your listing agreement, your HOA disclosure, your seller's property disclosure, and something else, right? And you put it into or your lead-based paint, all by just you and the seller, and you'll put them all in here, and you'll see the listing agreement is good, but the rest of them are all prelim. Why is that? Because the buyer hasn't signed them yet. That's not what we need. We don't get audited for preliminary documents. We get audited for documents signed by everybody. Okay, so we're going to put prelim on there. There's no problem with it. We don't mind you putting it in there. That's perfectly fine. I think you should put all your documents in here, but we're going to put prelim on it, meaning it's not good to go. It is reviewed, but it's not getting checked off this list. Okay, because it's not signed by everybody. Everybody understand that?
Got it.
Awesome. All right. So, any other questions or comments? I'm sorry that I haven't been checking the chat. I can't see it from over there. I guess I was the only one who had questions about this. Yes, you're not. Oh, Dalton's got something for our ethics forum. It's not going to be an ethical forum. It's just a forum about ethics. Nothing ethical about our forums. Why some buyers against lease space blank? Okay, yes, that Malvis. Okay, good. We've covered everything. Any other questions or comments? Fantastic. Well, you guys have been tremendous today, as usual. And as usual, a little bit of content leads to a lot of discussions. That's fantastic. I appreciate your participation. And we have Abby. I couldn't see your face. Did you say you'd send James a?
Yes, she did.
Okay.
Did I already
She
sent
already
it?
sent it.
Okay.
Thank you,
fantastic.
Abby.
I couldn't see her face.
No
on there,
problem.
so I couldn't see if she was nodding along. All right, guys. Well, thank you everybody for coming, and have a great week. I'm available if you guys need stuff. Seriously, Fernando, if you need me to look over paperwork or whatever, if you're writing, you guys try not to write legal stuff. Make it simple stuff that you've seen before. And if you need somebody to look it over, send it to us and we'll look it over.
Thank you. Thank you.
Have a great
I
week,
will.
everybody. Bye-bye.
As
Bye-bye.
always, amazing.
Oh, thank you, Ida. Take care.
Bye.
Okay.